Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Ideas X Lab's Uncovering Connection and Inclusion video podcast. I'm Josh Miller, the co-founder and CEO. And every week, we are engaging with a dynamic group of leaders as we think about what the future looks like, how we come together to think about the role of covering and our vision and values and inclusion efforts in how we move forward as communities and as a society. So today I'm really excited to be joined by Dr. Karmetria Burton. She is a corporate executive and the founder of the Paint Your Lips Red leadership movement. I had the honor of meeting Karmetria at Derby Diversity and Business Summit in 2018. We got to have create some tremendous memories at Oaks and Derby. And I've really just enjoyed getting to see the type of movement that she's leading and getting to share that with you all today. So Karmetria, I am going to get you pulled up on the screen. Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Josh, for having me.
Well, it has been a minute since we got to see each other in person, but I've been so thankful that we've been able to stay connected since DDBS in 2018. And I want to start our conversation today like we start each week, which is with one of my favorite questions. And that is, what gives you, Karmetria, oxygen in your life and work?
Great question. When I think of oxygen, I think of the very thing that I need to live and to be functional and to be vibrant. And what gives me oxygen every day is the ability to wake up every day and figure out, what am I going to do to support someone else today to get closer to their goal? I am all about collaboration. I am all about support. And I'm all about, as you climb, lift others up. So that's what gives me oxygen, being able to help, support, and collaborate a fellow member, a fellow team member, a fellow friend, to help them reach their goal. Because when one wins, we all win towards the greater good of doing something great.
Well, and I really think that what you just articulated is really embodied in the Paint Your Lips Red movement. And so that's why I'm it's great when you get to hear that from someone and you can see it reverberate through the different areas of how they live their life. Yeah. And so as we move forward in our conversation, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what it is from a personal vision standpoint and also foundational values. What are those things that are contributing and laying the foundation for the leadership movement that you're now spearheading?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the Paint Your Lips Red movement was something I started about 3 years ago. And I started it in honor of my grandmother. And I was a caregiver of hers for a few years. And to anyone that is a caregiver, oh my goodness, I never knew the depth and the love and the work that went into it. So if you are a caregiver, God bless you. We need you. Thank you. Thank you for everybody that you're taking care of. And essentially what it was, to make a long story short, Tuesday was my day to take her to her doctor's appointment. She was on dialysis 3 days a week. And every Tuesday morning I would go over, we'd get ready, we'd say our prayer. She'd get up, she'd go to the bathroom. And before she would take her medication, she would say, "Give me my red lipstick." And I was thinking, wait, what? Red lipstick? Okay, grandma wants to be fly at her doctor's appointments, right? But then it registered to me that was her cape for the day. That was her strength. That was her shield to say, I'm going to be hooked up to a dialysis machine for 5 hours. I'm going to have to go give blood. I don't feel very well, but my red lipstick is my war paint, my code of honor to say, I got this. I'm showing up. I'm strong. I'm fearless. And I am also fierce. So I took that platform and created a movement for women to remember to use your voice, and your red lipstick is your reminder. And women who paint their lips red, I've built 10 principles on it. Is we show up. Women who paint their lips red practice self-care. Women who paint their lips red collaborate and not compete. Women who paint their lips red give back. Women who paint their lips red know the importance of sisterhood. Women who paint their lips red are committed to leadership and moving forward. So these are the values that I've put together that I really want women to continue, not start, because a lot of us are already doing these things. So I just want the PYLR movement to be a reinforcement to women to be fierce, fearless, and feminine. And your red lipstick is your reminder.
You know, whether it's the articulation of it being the cape for a day or your war paint, there are so many different things for individuals, no matter their background, that they have that kind of helps them step into the day boldly. And I think that, you know, the red lips is such a great symbol of that, and a visual representation of
That's
that
right.
strength, and that you are stepping in, whether it's a health circumstance or something else that you are seeking to overcome, that you're bringing that courage and that strength with you. And when I think about this movement, I also think about one of the topics that we focus on each week is the topic of covering. So the downplaying or hiding of a facet of ourselves when we're at work and in life. And so I'd love to hear about, you know, if you have specific instances as a corporate executive, as a woman and someone who has been a leader, that you've seen for yourself instances of covering or for those around you, and how you think about the role of Paint Your Lips Red in helping women to uncover and step into the spaces where they're going with all of the strength and courage that they can.
Sure. You know, I always think about when I show up at work every day, the word show up, am I bringing my whole self? And for years, as a corporate executive, as a woman, and as a Black woman, being in predominantly white male dominated areas, I didn't. I would be quiet. I wouldn't speak up. I would have a seat at the table, but I didn't use my voice. And I didn't use my voice for several reasons. One, I was afraid. Two, I didn't want to sound like I wasn't smart. I didn't want to feel like I didn't belong as a part of the conversation. I didn't want to feel like what I was saying would be taken seriously. And so the red lipstick, the PYLR movement is just that. Remember to use your voice. And as I began to create this movement, my confidence began to spike because I was thinking, Karmetria, how can you motivate and pour into other women if you're not using your voice as you're asking them to do that? So I began to look at all the examples in my corporate career, being in meetings, not speaking up, or not speaking up on behalf of other people that were disenfranchised or not treated equally. Right? So paint your lips red and show up, speak up, shine your light, right? If you have a seat at the table, if you've been invited to a meeting, you're there for a reason. Be a good steward of that opportunity and speak up, give your ideas, be bold about it, and be confident in what you have to say and what you have to share.
You know, I think as the world, especially right now,
Yep.
The role of a movement like this and already having a network and an infrastructure in place just helps to move that conversation forward even
That's right.
more. So can you talk a little bit about how many people have been involved in this movement
Yep.
and how people can get involved if they want to, you know, visualize Paint Your Lips Red and participate in driving this forward?
Right. So when I started the movement a year later, I created something called the 5x20 Pledge. And it was my goal to get 5,000 women by the year 2020 to sign this pledge. Year to date, we have about 1,739 women that have signed the pledge. It is free to sign the pledge, and it is your way of making your mark in history. And not only do women have to sign it, I've had men sign it because I've had some men to say, I support my wife, my daughter, my sister, other women in my life that I want them to show up and not be afraid. So if you go to www.paintyourlipsred.com, you'll see a tab that says 5x20 Pledge. And when you sign it, it will give you the 10 habits that I want you to incorporate into your daily leadership life, right? When you sign the pledge, you will automatically become a part of my community of women, or you'll be on my email distribution list and you'll get updates on things I'm doing in the community, inspirational and white papers that I write. So to become a part of a community, just go to paintyourlipsred.com and sign the 5 by 20 pledge. And I will tell you, Josh, when I started this movement, a lot of women, they loved it, but they would say, I don't wear red lipstick. It's too bright. I don't feel comfortable. I don't want to get noticed
Yeah.
like that. And I get that. And I would always tell women, go to your local makeup counter and find your shade, right? My shade of red is not your shade of red.
Yep.
Find the shade of red that you are comfortable with. And that is also synonymous with being comfortable in speaking out, creating those spaces where you're comfortable using your voice and letting your voice be heard. So a lot of women have been touched by it. I've seen women grow their entrepreneur track. I've seen women increase their leadership. And I've seen women just in their daily lives become more confident because there's a community and tribe of women that are really experiencing sort of some of the same challenges that they have.
Yeah, I think when you're able to come together in that way, like you said, like a tribe, and reminding people, and this is even a message more broadly right now as we're looking at how people get involved in driving change at a community, at a systems level. Not everybody's going to be out on the front lines of a protest. And so the reminder of, one, find your shade, because shades are different for everybody, but also the way that you exhibit that and participate in the group can evolve too. And there's space for all of that in the movement.
That's right. That's right. Now is the time, as you said it, to use your voice, make a difference, turn your anger into action, be a part of the solution and not the problem. Let's create strategies to build healthier communities because everything that's going on now really is impacting us all. And we need to be a part of the action and providing strategies.
So as you think about the time we're in right now and strategies and this movement, what does the future look like for the Paint Your Lips Red movement? And not only, how far is the reach? Is it a national movement? Is it international? And I'd just love to hear a little bit more about that.
Sure. It is definitely a global movement. I've had women in Africa, the Bahamas, Brazil, and Puerto Rico sign the pledge. So it is a global movement. What I'd like to do is once I continue to get more women to sign the pledge, we're looking to launch, and this is the first you've heard it here, PYLR Junior, right?
Fantastic.
We cannot forget those younger girls. I mean, these millennial women are strong and they have a voice. And so what I'd like to do is get them a part of the PYLR movement and coach and train them to be our next generation of women leaders. So we have so many young girls that have leadership inside of them, but they're afraid. They just need that coaching and that tribe and that community of women where they can speak up in safe spaces, use their voice in safe spaces, and get coached along the way.
Yeah.
So for me, PYLR is global, it's international. And then PYLR Junior will have an increased focus on those girls ages 15 to 21. Right now, most of the women in my community are late 20s, early 30s to maybe mid 60s. But we can't forget that next generation of women leaders.
I love that you're expanding it to include that facet. And I saw mentorship mentioned on the website, but as getting back to the topic of covering, how are you supporting the future generations to know that there are ways for them to strategically drive change within the places where they are stepping into, and
That's
that they
right.
do have the right to be at those tables. And here are some knowledge that's passed on, but also some strategies to think about how you effectively do that.
That's right. And I tell people all the time, the sign of a good leader is you taking your torch and lighting the torch of others, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to blow your torch out. I don't have to blow mine out, but we have to each take a piece of us and pour into others to sustain movements and leadership and safe spaces for the next generation.
So what will, and this may be something that's under development, but since we're talking about the junior focus with the mentorship, will that, given how much is virtual right now, does this give us a better opportunity to connect people across the US for that mentorship virtually.
It does. And like you and I were talking, Josh, this new climate, I've been hearing the word pivot. We all have to pivot,
Yep.
pivot, pivot. And that's great. But what do you do after you pivot? And the word I've come up with is adapt.
Yes.
You have to pivot, and then you have to adapt, and then you have to focus. So my three words are pivot, adapt, and focus. And you kind of have to do all three of them at the same time. If not, you'll get left behind. So to your point, doing everything virtually now, I think will create an ease of convenience for a lot of people, because we don't want to leave any woman left behind.
Mm-hmm.
So pre-COVID-19, I was having events. Oftentimes I would hear women say, you know what, I'd love to get there, but I don't have a babysitter, or I'm working late, right? So this virtual space will literally be a way of convenience for everyone. It is really a way for us to build bridges, to make PYLR that much larger and stronger, and really to help sustain it. Because the way we do business now with smartphones and computers, at the touch of a button, a click of a link, we can all be present and available.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head. The mental mantra that I've had for the past 3 months has just been, oh, we can't do it that way? Okay, we're going to adapt. We're going to adapt. We're
That's
going
right.
to adapt. Even today, we jumped from one room to another because the Wi-Fi was maybe isn't always our best friend, but we're still able to connect and have those conversations.
That's right.
And it will only be, I think it's going to be so interesting over the next few months to see what is the next phase of this kind of digital, the role of in-person and digital, and how we, that will continue to evolve. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
I would even say that people will be more inclined to join digitally, because when we would have to get on a plane in the past, it's like we had to coordinate so much to make it happen,
Yep.
right? I'm not available that day. Okay, my meeting ends, or I couldn't find a plane that, would get me there by this time. We don't have those barriers anymore. It is simply a click of a link to get you there, and boom, you are available and accessible. So you're right, we have to adapt. A lot of people are afraid of this new technology, but to that I say, find a millennial or someone that is really technological savvy to help you, because if you don't adapt, you'll get left behind, and you will miss opportunities to be a part of great conversations in spaces like this. So adaptation will be very important.
Yeah, you're completely right in terms of, especially when we think about conferences, and how many days those can take up, and it then becomes this juggling act of, I'm going, but I'm only going to be in a few sessions because I'm going to step out and work. And
That's right.
I'm one of the signatories for the CEO Action for Diversity and Inclusion Network. And so they had some spots for the Social Innovation Summit that just happened. And it was virtual, and it was 3 full days, but that was such a great way to be able to jump in and to participate in all of these sessions and the virtual networking, and to see how all of that's integrated to build those networks. And it was global. And so I think that's going to be only continue to expand the reach of, individual corporations and organizations, but also movements.
That's right. We're working from home. I've been working from home since March. And I will tell you, it has been a struggle for me, because I have never in my entire corporate life worked from home. I was always one of those leaders that was against that. But now that I'm working from home, it took me a while to find my vibe and my groove, and I had to calibrate, but I love it now. And it gets back to the words of adapting, right? So I have, my coworkers are now my dog and my husband. I have a 4-legged coworker. He barks during conference calls, and people get that, because people understand we're all working from home now, and we're having to adapt. And so sometimes he's disgruntled when I'm on calls. He's barking. He wants to go out, but we're all adapting. And I think that is the one lesson that we can thank, if there's a such thing, COVID for. How are you different as a result of COVID-19? And I think all of us will have stories that we can share that are successful.
Yes, I worked I think I was home for 2.5 months. I've been in a co-working space for like 2 weeks, but it definitely shifted the dynamic of how we connect with each other and give each other grace. You know,
That's,
the
oh,
cat runs across the keyboard, or the kids are screaming in the background, and it's just like, it's okay. Go take care of it. Come back, and we'll keep going.
that's right. That's right. Because we're all adapting to this new normal. And I like what you said, giving each other grace. Because we're all trying to do the best we can with what we have in the current environment. So I like that.
So, are there any other, you know, now that you've been working remotely for a while, are there lessons you've learned as a leader in terms of how you've engaged with your team, or with members of the movement that you think would be beneficial for other people to hear?
You know, I would tell people, during this time of working virtually, managing a team has been difficult because everybody on your team is different.
Yeah.
You have some team that are extroverts, you have some members that are introverts. And so what I tried to do is, all the conference calls obviously had to go virtual. But after that, I would do something called a wellness check every week where I would call my team members individually, not a part of a team meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and just say, how you doing? We're working from home. Are you adapting okay? What do you need from me as a leader? Do you have everything you need to be productive? And doing those individual wellness checks went a long way because I learned something different about my team members that I didn't know before. Um, the other thing is I sent thank you cards in the mail. Thank you for adapting to this current environment. I know it's hard, but we're in this together.
Mm-hmm.
When we do virtual meetings, if appropriate and comfortable, I try to make sure all my team members have their camera on.
Yep.
Right? There's something to be said about being able to see each other, right?
Completely agree.
Because we're not in the same space. I say if you can, turn your camera on, and I would always give them a heads up the day before for the meeting to say, okay, you guys, it's not going to be a conference call, it's going to be a virtual meeting, and would love to see your face if you're available. And I think that goes a long way because although we can't see there to touch and hug and give each other high five, just being able to see each other really created a greater bonding for the team. So you got to get creative. We did virtual happy hours. I did a virtual trivia, and whoever answered the most questions right, I'd send them a pizza, right? That's just a way to
Yeah.
keep people engaged and motivated. It's been difficult, but you kind of find your groove of the team and you motivate your team by what's important for them and what makes them thrive. Because everybody's motivated differently. So as a good leader, you really would have to assess the team and the team dynamics and what they need to feel motivated and appreciated.
Yeah, I think I absolutely resonate with that in terms of it kind of created a different type of planning scenario in terms of, is it a conference call? Is it video call? How do we then navigate together as a team across these digital spaces? And I love the idea of the trivia and then being able to send some kind of meal or a pizza as
Yep.
a way to just connect on a different level.
Yep. Yep. Got to get creative. Create and adapt. Back to that word, adapting.
Well, we are coming up to the end of our time for our conversation today, but is there anything else, whether it's related to Paint Your Lips Red or your leadership journey, that you'd like to share with people in terms of how they can get involved, something inspirational that you've been kind of resonating on during this time?
Yep. So, we all, as a result of COVID-19, the racial injustices that we've seen, it's been an emotional journey for all of us. And my action and charge to each of you is, how are you showing up differently as a result? Right?
Yeah.
So for me as a leader, I find myself now listening more. Listening is a critical skill. And sometimes as being a leader, because you're so used to dictating or giving instructions or explaining, really listen more and listen with empathy. Because now the world that we're in, people are really looking to connect because we're not face to face anymore. So listening and listening with empathy. I'm showing up differently as a leader and as a daughter, a wife, and a mom, just in my personal relationships as well, listening more. The other thing is tapping back into my community of friends. Pre-COVID-19, we were so busy with travel, but now that we've had this downtime, reach out to people that you haven't talked to in a while. See how you can
Yeah.
support them, see how they're doing. A lot of people are really feeling isolated during this time, and they don't know how to ask for help. Check on your friends, check on your community of people that maybe you haven't reached out to in a while. And so for the Paint Your Lips Red movement, we will continue to embody those principles. If you want to be a part of a movement of women that are looking to level up their lives, their businesses, their careers, would love to have you join us. Paintyourlipsred.com is where you can find me. Join the pledge or send me an email. There is strength in numbers, and I look forward to having you.
All right, Karmetria. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you,
joining
Josh.
us
My
for the
pleasure.
Uncovering Video podcast, and I look forward to touching base soon.
Thank you. Be well.
You
Take great
too.
care. Thanks.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for tuning in to today's Uncovering Video podcast featuring Dr. Karmetria Burton of the Paint Your Lips Red leadership movement. You can learn more about and rewatch our conversation at ideasxlab.com/uncovering, along with seeing past discussions. We welcome recommendations, ideas you may have as you think about what the future looks like, if you see the role of uncovering and how you can participate in making our society, our communities more inclusive. So tune in Thursdays at noon. We will be taking next week off, but we'll be back the first week of July, and have a great week.